Okay, to install the V-pipe, you're going to need a 22 millimeter nut. It screws onto that. There are two mounting brackets that screw onto here, and one more that bolts on. This is the pipe that we're going to reinstall. That's 22 millimeter nut that's on the end. These are the two mounting brackets that hook it up. This is the other mounting bracket that goes in the wall somewhere. These are 3 10 millimeter screws. This is a 20 millimeter adjustable wrench. This is a pair of channel lock draw pliers, which can be used to grab onto the 22 millimeter nut. This is a 10 millimeter wrench. To remove the back end of the EGR pipe, you're going to need a 22 millimeter nut, which is that in the background. You're going to need to use the 10 millimeter screw here, and there are two 10 millimeter studs that sit here and here where it slides on. You're going to need to use a 22 millimeter adjustable wrench, pair of channel lock draw pliers, the two wing nuts that are here, or not wing nuts, two nuts that are here, 10 millimeter ratchet, a lot of patience, and probably some lubricating fluid such as WD-40, and that's it. The back end of the EGR pipe needs a 22 millimeter nut, which is there. The pipe itself has two 10 millimeters, which you can see one partially screwed on here. You're going to need to use a deep socket. There is one on the bottom down here, one on the top there. It just slides in. There is another 10 millimeter screw that mounts it right here, right there, and has the two hose connectors here and here for later. The tools you will probably need will be a deep socket 10 millimeter ratchet, two of the nuts, an adjustable wrench or a 22 millimeter, and some channel lock draw pliers, and preferably some lubricating fluid such as WD-40. I do not know the tool specs. You should probably look those up and apply them properly. Next, you reconnect the two hoses and reapply the little hose clamps. Alright, to install the back end of this, you're going to need two 12 millimeter long bolts, 12 millimeter socket, a 3/8 cylinder, and a small ratchet. The small hose here on the right has this hose piece that gets looped through it. There's a tiny component over here behind this hose. Right here is where it screws into. That is the hole. After you line it up in this hole right here, there's one other one that lines up with this. There's one over here, and it lines up somewhere in the back right here. This hose connector gets plugged into the metal pipe that then connects to the EGR, the 22 millimeter nut, flange nut, tube nut, whatever you want to call it. Alright, to reinstall the EGR valve, you're going to need to probably replace the gasket here. I'm not going to. The gasket will line up with the EGR valve itself last such. You're going to need a 12 millimeter ratchet and socket. I'm going to use a 3/8 extension. You're going to need these two nuts. The EGR then gets placed with this hole on the bottom and this hole on the bottom right, and they mount on back here on, not this one, on this bolt and one other bolt over here, and it'll go in sideways. This hose will connect to this tubing. To get the hose clamp on, which is located right here with the tube pushed all the way back, I used a 12-inch long-nosed needle pair of pliers with a slight curve at the end. Cost $6 at Walmart, I believe. And don't forget to connect or reconnect the electrical connector here. Alright, you have to finesse the EGR tube in and around. What I did is I disconnected the upper radiator hose here at this point, which actually fits in to this part of the hose. I also disconnected one of the firewall hoses right here for the heater core from the tubing here, and I believe there was one other hose and I can't find it right now. Anywho, you have to push down on this mechanism, I believe from the transmission, to get the metal EGR pipe in and around, and it should sit right about here, at which point you will have to use a 22 millimeter tool. This is metric, To get the EGR pipe to screw on or off tightly, we're going to use channel lock pliers. There should be 3 10mm bolts. I use a long socket ratchet. There are 2 that go down here. There's a mounting bracket right here. And then there's the EGR valve itself. That is all.